showcasing what needs to happen and supporting the small town. Because if you are in Mpumalanga and you are specializing in a particular crop, why don't we have a weekend at which we devote to just seeing the processing and the value chain of that crop and invite people that are outside the sector so they get to appreciate where things go in agriculture. This is particularly useful for the youth and all of the school kids so that they know that the food doesn't come from the retail sector, but it actually comes from the farming sector, and they appreciate how the retail sector enhances the work of the farmers in strengthening food security and the value chain in the agricultural sector. Those are all of the important things that I think if we want to support agritourism, we need to do. But you know what? The South African agricultural sector hasn't just been having these mixed news. There's also some good things that have been happening. Did you realize that in the first quarter of this year, while we were all up and about talking about trade policy, which is an important thing because the liberation tariffs are still up, who knows what will happen from July 9th? Is the US going to take tariffs back to where they were, or are we remaining at 10%? The reason I'm raising this is because if you think about our agricultural sector, we did so well in the first quarter in terms of exports. I mean, I'm looking at the figures here. The exports of the South African agricultural sector were at 3.7 billion US dollars in the first quarter of this year. That's up 10% compared to the first quarter of 2024. Now, there's a number of products that were at the top of that, but hey, the table grape farmers won the league. They were at the top in terms of the value, followed by maize, apples, pears, apricots, wine, peaches, wool, and many other products that were there, which means as a country, we have continued to export. And there's a number of regions that we send our exports to. We are quite diverse. The African continent is almost half of those exports. And of course, followed by the EU at 27% of our agricultural exports in the first quarter of 2025. And then you had Asia, 16%, the Americas, which include the US, at about 6%. The US, our exports were still at about 4%. But of course, let's be real, this is before the liberation tariffs. We will see then in the second quarter as to how are our exports faring in the US and what's the real impact of these tariffs.